The Primary Arms GLX cantilever mount. Primary Arms offers this in a few different flavors, but very limited all things considered. You have a 30 and 34 millimeter tube option and a 0 or 20 MOA cant option. This one on the bottom is set for 30 millimeters with 0 MOA of cant. That is your part number if you wanted to look this up, but there will be a link in the description below if you want to buy one of these. For the roughly $110 that these things go for normally, you might be curious as to what makes it that expensive. It looks like a fairly simple mount. We have 1/2-inch hexes on the right-hand side, which is pretty unusual. A lot of the times, or more often than not, they're on the left-hand side. And it looks really simple and really not all that flashy. So why is this $110? Well, unfortunately, I don't have the box in front of me. This came mounted to a scope and was sent in as a setup. But checking out Primary Arms' website real quick on these, they say that these are American made. So that is why these are only $110 and not like Midwest Industries or any of those other manufacturers where you're talking about nearly twice the price of this, which is really impressive. If it's worth it, if it's good, if it's made well and works properly, then for that price, this could be a very compelling option for someone that's looking to keep the budget a little bit on the lower side, but still buy an American-made component. As with all of my reviews, we're going to start off at the bottom. We have two very large steel cross bolts, and they have flats milled into them as your stop for a pick rail. These are most certainly pressed in, so you don't have to worry about them walking out on you with regular usage. You can see just how much pressure these two hex screws can put on a pick rail because the anodizing is marked up quite significantly. You can tell that it's mostly just a surface finish. It's not like it's embedded into the aluminum or it's damaged, but there's a lot of pressure that's going on with this claw setup. Speaking of the claw setup, it is full length. It's probably about 2 inches or so. In fact, lazy me, I have a scale right here, more or less 2 5/8 of an inch, give or take. I'm not going to get too crazy getting it out to the thousandths, but I really like the base setup so far. I like all the information down there at the bottom. So if you have any questions or if you're curious about what exact mount this is, or if you're buying one of these used, all the information is right there for you. There isn't a whole lot else to really talk about on the bottom. 1/2-inch hexes are fine as long as you don't mind them being as large as they are. It's great to just have a wrench, an adjustable wrench, a pair of pliers or something in your bag and be able to remove your scope one way or the other. It's a lot easier than trying to find a T15 or a T20 or a T25 Torx bit to remove your mount if you're in a hurry. As far as QD versus permanently attached like this, that's a topic that only you could really answer for yourself. But nevertheless, at least the hex nuts are captive, and that's really it. There's nothing else to really talk about. Let's talk about the weight. Primary Arms claims like the mid 6 ounces for this. On my scale, I'm getting 7.2. So could be a defect with my scale, or it could just be maybe they're talking about a different model for the generalized weight. As far as the anodizing on it, it does look a little bit on the cheaper side, but it is pretty smooth. As you can see, my nail is barely rubbing off, and when I take my finger and rub at it, you can see it cleans up quite nicely. It's got a decent looking sheen to it, but it's not glaringly bright and going to have a lot of reflections coming off of it. And it does look pretty even. I don't know how much use this has had, but it doesn't look like it's been destroyed. With that being said, I also don't see any real machine marks on this, and that's always nice to see. But it doesn't look like a lot of the more expensive mounts when it comes to the overall fit and finish. These edges are all sharp. Some of them have a little bit of scratching going on the hard edge, probably just because it's a hard edge. It wasn't deburred properly. And I don't know what grade aluminum this is. I'm going to assume it's a 6000 series T6 of some sort, given the price point. But I was hoping for a little bit better fit and finish. Like this right here, that's actually a little bit of a raised edge over here. I don't know if that's a burr on the aluminum or if that was just with the anodizing, but it's not going to cut your finger, but it's definitely something that I notice. A lot of other high dollar mounts, we just looked at a bunch of them, and some Night Force mounts, some Badger mounts. They're not going to have any of these imperfections, but they're also going to cost 3 times the price as this. So that's definitely something to take into consideration. And if these are truly made in the US, to hit that price point, I can understand, usually they cut corners, but in this case they didn't cut corners. They just left them sharp. But as long as it returns to 0 properly and a scope goes in here and doesn't bind up, I'm not going to be too upset with this, because if this is American made for the $110-ish that they go for, I'd be pretty happy. Taking a look at the underside of one of the caps, you can see these holes were very poorly deburred. Some of them have a decent edge or overall radius on them, and others like this have a bit of a jank edge, kind of like they just took this manually and just did that to a deburring tool, or maybe even just a drill bit inside of a chuck that was spinning. It doesn't fill me full of confidence. Neither does the extrusion marks, it looks like, on the inside of these rings. I don't know if you could tell, but over here there are lines going like this, in line with the tube of the scope. Could be machining marks, it could be extrusion marks. Either which way, it's definitely something that I see. The anodizing is a little bit rougher on the inside of the cap than it is on the outside. There's a good spot. There, you can see those lines I'm talking about. Yeah, a little odd. But we're about to throw a scope in this and see how these will fit on a main tube. The T15 headed screws, though, are very long and offer a lot of thread engagement onto the base. As far as the base itself, those are just threaded holes. There are no inserts on them. They are also blind. So if you accidentally break a bolt off in there, you're going to have a hell of a hard time pulling that out. If this was a through hole that was threaded all the way through, which most of the time they're not threaded all the way through, but if it was, you could at least come in this way with a drill bit to hopefully push out the broken screw, or just drill it out from the top and have it walk its way out. It does look nice like this. It's a very clean look, but I'm much more of a function over form kind of guy. Now, before anyone starts smashing the keyboard in the comment section below because I'm about to do this backwards, I have to do it like this so I can access these hex nuts from the side where I mount this for my tracking setup. But we're going to take the SWFA fixed Gen 1 16X and throw it inside. As you can see, it wants to just rotate because it is not very tight in there. There's no resistance whatsoever, which makes me believe that there's a little bit more play in the design of this mount than some others. Usually I'll put the scope inside of it and it might rotate a little bit under the weight of the erectors or the turrets, but this is just like, I mean, it almost feels like there's nothing there. Some people would like this, some people will not like this. If you go with too tight of a tolerance, like we saw with the Discovery Optics precision rings that they have for the $50 or $60, whatever they are, the precision board 70-75 rings, those are actually a little bit on the tighter side, and it's designed that when your scope goes in and you lock it up, you don't have to wrench on it. It's a perfect fit. Or if you want to hone out your rings, which a lot of people do regardless to what it's going on or how expensive the glass is going inside of it, those rings are really nice because they're not even anodized on the inside. You don't have to worry about getting through the anodizing. With this, you have to go through the anodizing, and it's already on the loose side, so you have to be mindful of that. Let's put a cap on here real quick and see if that makes a difference. I got one cap on here. These screws are just a little bit loose, so this way the cap's not locked up. You can see it still rocks on there a little bit, but the scope still turns very easily. Ultimately, this isn't the end of the world because it allows us to make an adjustment quite easily without scratching the anodizing on the tube, but it's something to note that these are probably a little bit larger, and as you compress the cap, it's going to be a little oblong as opposed to a more perfect circle. But anyway, I'm going to finish mounting this up, and we're going to see if it returns to 0. You are down here looking through the SWFA fixed 16X inside the Primary Arms GLX mount. As you can see, everything lines up and is zeroed flawlessly. I have the cross bolts on the mount torqued to 40 inch-pounds. I'm now going to loosen them up. Very clearly see the scope is loose. I'm going to push it forward, snug up the rear, then the front. Then I'm going to torque the rear, torque the front. You'll see this before I do. Looks to be really close. Maybe not 100% perfect, but not too bad. Gonna do that again. Loosen the rear, loosen the front. Get it all swifty. Push forward, snug the rear, snug the front, torque the rear, torque the front. Very good. Let's do it one more time. And very, very close. I would say almost so close it wouldn't really make that much of a difference. Not a bad performance. So there you have it. As you saw, this thing tracks and returns 0 perfectly fine. I don't see any real items of concern for me other than I would just like to see a little bit better fit and finish on some of the components. Just a little bit more time deburring it or cleaning it up would really go a long way. But unfortunately, that would also increase the price. Right now in Primary Arms, you could get these for around 110 bucks, and I'm sure they pop up on sale fairly frequently. And I'm sure that if you are a first responder, LEO, military, you get a nice hefty discount. And for the sub $100-ish that it'll probably cost at that point, it's really not a bad mount, especially if these are actually truly USA made. If you're looking for a mount with a little bit more joie de vivre, or a little bit more of a nicer finish, you're going to be spending at least 50% more expensive than what this mount costs. So you have to take that into perspective. All in all, if you're already buying stuff from Primary Arms and you want to buy a decent mount that holds up pretty well to my resetting setup, well then this GLX mount isn't half bad. And a huge thank you to my Patreon providers and my Subscribe Star subscribers. Without you, this truly wouldn't be possible. If you'd like to support my channel but don't want to join either of those, I completely understand. But you could still help by using my affiliate links in the description below, and or like, share, and subscribe as always. Again, thank you very much.